My kind of vision of this 15 minutes is going to be to remind everyone kind of to one of Kitty's slides that showed all the different buckets that CRT handles. It's similar with CRR, and actually CRT is one of the buckets under CRR. So this is kind of a high-level reminder of some of the things that we do in CRR/LSE. And we're certainly here for any questions from everyone too. So what we're trying to get beyond is, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but I think the average firefighter out in the field, if you ask them about, hey, what's LSE, what's CRR, they're like, I don't know, Brad. I think Brad's up there now, like puppet shows, like smoke alarms, like I don't know. So this is kind of a reminder of some of the people up there, including myself. Karen Kovach is a nurse up there, so if you know Karen, or if you don't, she's a nurse in CRR.
She's the good Kovach.
Her husband works on Rescue 44 now, is it?
Yeah,
Mike,
Rescue 2.
Lieutenant on Rescue 44. So, all right, we'll go through it pretty quick, high level, shout out any questions. So just a reminder of who's up there, myself, Marlon Murphy, he's actually on his way out, he leaves in December. So, we'll see what it looks like next year as far as the org chart. I think they're going to try to streamline it a little bit more. Right now, Marlon is technically CRR, and I do life safety education. So Marlon's got the CRT, he's got Karen as the nurse. And on my side, I've got Candace Johnson, and there's 4 life safety educators. The vacant position, and this is actually really up to date. Molly has not even started yet. She's taking Jesse's spot, if you remember Jesse. And the vacant position, I'm sad to report that Lindsay Winter is leaving us. So if you know Lindsay, she's a superstar. She's leaving. Yeah, that's hot off the press. So she's going to Prince William County to teach. She's got a background in teaching, so yeah. Yeah. Big loss. So just a reminder of who's up there and kind of what we do. You guys can read the definition, but basically process to identify risks and try to get in front of those risks. So whereas most of us are used to being reactive, 99% of our career is responding to incidents that have already happened, we're trying to get upstream of those calls. So cliche, but prevention efforts are kind of sometimes hard to quantify because the incident never happens. Everybody's heard that. So it's the same thing with the fire marshal's office. But we're doing our best to get in front of calls. And as the CRT mentioned, prevent super utilizers, frequent flyers, whatever your favorite terminology is. Please chime in if I...
You're good. I mean, I think one of the things that community risk reduction is relatively new to the fire service, but at this point in time, it's nationally, internationally recognized as it's not just fire prevention anymore. It's all hazards. So we encompass, medical risk reduction and prevention efforts as well. But so I think almost every jurisdiction has some sort of community risk reduction component to it, even if it's just one person. We're fortunate to have, a handful.
There are a lot of one-person shows similar to the fire marshal's office. So you go to some smaller jurisdictions, and we have 100 people in our fire marshal's office, right? They do systems testing, inspections, plans review, revenue and records, and you add them all up, it's 100 people. You go an hour in any direction, it's a one-person show. They do enforcement, plans review, like they do everything. So we are fortunate. But we could still use, we could double our staff easily. Like Kitty said, she's got 60 cases right now. We could have 10 more people. Is it going to happen in this budget climate? Probably not. It's not. So again, like whatever your favorite metaphor is, I like sports analogies and metaphors, but upstream is a good one. Data informed, not data driven. John Morrison just gave a presentation. I came from, actually, it's another thing that Kitty mentioned in hers. She mentioned DCC. So this meeting I just came from was, I think, 14 different agencies within the county all getting together in the spirit of trying to eliminate silos. we've been talking about that for decades. It's easier said than done, but we're all in the same room trying to make it happen. So at least we're talking. I think the value in it is that, you know, I'm in a room with Rocco, and I know if something comes up a couple weeks from now, I know I can call Rocco, and like he's going to give me a straight answer. He's going to make something happen for me. So it was a kickoff meeting, but I'm hopeful. So. Strategic interventions, all hazards approach. So as Karen said, it's not just fires, right? So actually statistically in the CRR plan, the top 3 risks are falls, number 1, which is about 9 or 10%. And we've got Power BIs for everything, right? We've got a falls Power BI, lift assist, super utilizers, smoke alarms, everything. So, but statistically, falls are number 1. You want to talk about falls?
11. I mean, we talk about a little bit later when you get to the plan, but yeah, it's 11% of the calls you guys are running is lift assist or falls.
Yeah, if you add up falls and lift assist, you're over 10%, so that's a lot. Community partnerships, so as I said, there's a lot of agencies within the county. Just one example, I think there's 200 languages spoken in the county. Faith organizations, you'd be surprised. It's unbelievable. So that's just one example of community partnerships. But so there's a CRA. If you haven't looked at it in a while, I think it's worth looking at. So if you Google, or you can go to the SharePoint, but if you Google Fairfax County Fire Community Risk Assessment, the average citizen can pull it up. It's a public website, and you can you can look at anything, right? You pull it up by first due. I've got a slide that shows it, but pick your first due. 8 is the one I used on here, and it'll break down your top calls, both fire and EMS, and you can look at all kinds of calls. So we don't have to rely on anecdotal stuff anymore. We can prove it, right? So the person that says, we get up every night at station X. You can say, actually, you guys got up 47.3% in 2024, whatever. So we can prove it. So that's pretty cool, right? And it was even cooler when Google came out, because it was Firehouse Kitchen Table you just made stuff up and nobody could call you on it. Now it's like they fact check you real time. So that's kind of cool. Sorry. So we did the community risk assessment. There is a CRR plan that I recommend checking it out if you get some time. A lot of time was spent on it. But it outlines those top 3 risks and a lot of other stuff. So it's on SharePoint.
But yeah, basically that process, it doesn't really matter to you guys, but what NFPA lays out a framework for what community risk reduction looks like. Like you could have an apartment and you're doing smoke alarms and you're doing some fall prevention stuff, but they really want you to follow the framework to have a well built out and thoughtful program. So we start with the community risk assessment, which data analytics, we're going to go to the next slide. Data analytics and GIS put together, and initially was put together for accreditation. So when you do go to the document, if you look at the next slide, you'll see that the dates are 2018 through 22. That's like the front page of the document. However, that was for accreditation purposes. When you get down to the data points, that data is continuously updated on Power BI, so you don't need to worry that it's from 2022. But yeah, we want you guys to be familiar with the risks that's specific to your battalions or your areas, and I'll let Brad talk about that.
So usually when we go out, depending on who we're talking to and what area they're in, so we visited all the Board of Supervisors office recently, so when we go to each, we pull up a station in their district, so it gives them, because like I said, depending on what first due you pull up, it's going to be unique to that first due now. You're going to see a lot of overlap. The busy stations, like it's going to be similar, but they're all a little bit different. And some of the, there's a lot of data points there, whatever. But like Tyson's is the classic one that you hear. Like the daytime population is whatever, and then the nighttime population, it drops off the map. So, but it's cool. I recommend looking at it, and any citizen can look at it. So you can, we recommend introducing them to that, and we try to do it all we can, but we can't do everything. You saw the staff that we have. There's 1.2 million residents and 400 whatever square miles, and so even though we are blessed with a good staff, we can't do it all. So we rely on the stations a lot. While I'm talking about it, that first slide with all the educators, what we're trying to do in the spirit of trying to get away from just being known as puppet shows, is break down the educators by battalion. So there's 4 of them, there's 8 battalions. Each educator was given 2 battalions. So for instance, Dawn Kestner has got battalions 1 and 2. Wai Ling, who's been around 20 years, has 3 and 7. The new person's going to have 5 and 6, and then whoever replaces Lindsay's going to have 4 and 8. So.
And we do want the educators as well. It's like a change, you know, instead of going to a community event and they're just handing out file of lives, like we want them to utilize the assessment as well to take appropriate information for the neighborhood that they're going to. So it can start to be a little bit of intentional outreach instead of just blanket education and the same handouts.
All hazards is a good term, and I think, like Karen and I were talking about, I think in the future what you might see is, you know, the hiring processes reward experience in the fire department or EMT, because that's a lot of stuff we do, right? We're trying to get our most bang for the buck. So a lot of things that we get into, as Billy helped us out with recently, we did some training for Amazon. So we're trying to do life-saving things that the average layperson can do. So CPR, hands-only CPR, AED, Narcan, stop the bleed, all these things that any of us in here could teach someone even without a PowerPoint, right? Give me 20 minutes with this person and I can teach them about a tourniquet or how to use an AED or how to pump on somebody's chest or whatever. So those big 4 are kind of a lot of our focus as we go around and talk to a captive audience of our target population. So I don't know if any of you guys were at the Mather recently, but it's in 29's area. It's a high-rise, 300 people, all, you know, senior adults, and they are right in our wheelhouse. And there's a lot of examples, right? Lockwood House recently came on the radar for something in 28's area, but they're all over the county. Everybody knows that. Spring Village, I mean, I could dedicate an educator to Spring Village alone, and they could stay busy all year long, probably. I mean, I've been on that campus where we've had at least 4 different medic units, if not 5, so. All right. Just another slide there. Like Karen said, these update real time now, so if you're really curious, you can go to them and they update real time. CRR plan. If you Google CRR, it'll say 5 E's. We, on the coin, you'll see, and Todd was up there at the time, it's they added a 6th E for equity, so Marlon is the equity programs manager. I think maybe, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen next budget year, but I think Marlon leaves in December, so you may see a more streamlined org chart where the equity manager, I think, role is going to be probably above me and then everything else. So don't quote me on that. I know it's on video. You guys can check me on it later. It must be true. CRR plan is online if you want to look at it. So these are some of the things I mentioned. So hands-only CPR. Again, those big 4 that we can teach people right away. Pulse point is another one. Karen, you want to speak to Pulse point? Yeah. We just had an alert in the last hour or so.
Yeah. We cardiovascular emergencies is one of the top 3 risks that we had picked to go into our first CRR plan. So we have cardiovascular emergencies, falls, and then false alarms. But we were already doing a lot with cardiovascular emergencies, specifically around CPR, and Pulse Point is one of those things that in 2021 the county invested in Pulse Point, and basically the goal of Pulse Point is to get CPR and AED to a cardiac arrest victim prior to EMS arrival, right? So we know that the sooner that they get intervention, that the more likely they are to have a neurologically intact outcome. So we have been using Pulse Point for about 4 or 5 years now, and then we also have Pulse Point AED, which allows laypersons to add AEDs into our electronic registry. The goal with Pulse Point AED is that ultimately, right now, only if you're a Pulse Point Respond user do you see where Pulse Point registered AEDs are, but our goal is working with DPSC to have our 911 call takers have access to our electronic registry of AEDs within the county so they can direct call takers to the nearest AED.
And that's big as we try to, or as we have to justify our budgets in the future. So it just came up recently. I don't even know if I told you yet, but it's about 20 grand for Pulse Point. And you know, a jurisdiction, Stafford, I think it was, just keeping it real or whatever. Stafford recently, and some of you may have seen it on social media, they stopped using it because they couldn't find a case where they actually had a citizen use an AED on someone, so they, you know, discontinued use of it. So we'll see what happens, but it's about 20 grand a year. So funny story is talking to Carlton, who's down there in Stafford in some role now, and he was saying yeah, the only time they could find somebody using it was someone was in a parking lot of a Kohl's or something, and their thing went off, pulse point AED, they're going to be the hero, somebody's having a heart attack in the parking lot or whatever, so they ran into the Kohl's to get the AED, and then security tackled them because they thought they were stealing the AED. So. I thought that was kind of fun. That was the only thing that came up. So, Karen, what you got?
I have a question. I've been asked this a couple times over the years. And maybe I just wanted to know if it was your, would this be a CRR initiative that you all might be able to address with your life safety educators? So people will call from high-rise communities, especially if there's a higher elderly population, and will say, hey, we want to get an AED, but we're fighting our community management teams. Is there someone that can come talk to them to make them sort of get on board, like the realization how important this is to have for our communities? And so I often don't know where to direct them, except for, and myself going down there and talking to them, I don't think, you know,
Yeah, that's a tough spot.
Typically,
I mean, right, like there's no laws that require
Right.
it unless you're, you know, there's a health facility, a health gym in there, then we could maybe point to that law and
Yeah.
they could at least get one outside of their gym area or pool area. But yeah, outside of like sharing the importance of preparedness and prevention, like
well, that's what I mean. Would it be appropriate to give them an email for one of the life safety educators that work under you?
not one of the life.
No, I would actually, I mean,
You could
Yeah.
share my
Email.
contact information, that's fine, but yeah, again, it's we can't,
Yeah,
we
they
can
just, that
encourage,
was
but
what
we
we asked
can't.
was the encouragement.
and sometimes, to your point, like getting someone there and getting the right ear, right, and someone in uniform with the FRD logo or whatever, there is something to that. So I think the reason Karen says, you know, probably her is because she's involved in some AED stuff that is kind of high level as far as getting the AEDs to some of the parks in the county and whatnot. So it does get kind of political, and some of the educators just don't have the background. So some of them aren't even EMTs or yeah. So I would say
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
I didn't know.
the Mather is a good example, right? So I think they only had one. Like as you walk in, they've got a whole concierge desk and stuff, and I think they only had the one. It's crazy because they've got, I mean, it's unbelievable. If you haven't been to the building, it's a
We
gorgeous.
are going to Mather, teach hands-on like CPR.
Yeah, and I tried to encourage it.
So
Yeah.
whoever is on, we'll invite.
Yeah, because they're cheap, right? I mean, they should be on every level of the thing in theory, but
Well, they said,
we're not.
yeah, there's a lot of physicians and or retired physicians, and they say they pay enough money that,
Right.
so they're fighting it.
Yeah. So
miseducation, like the Ritz-Carlton, for instance. They've got 2 or 3, but they don't want anybody using them but staff. They don't want to put them in a public place because they don't want
The perception.
perception of people dying.
yeah.
Fair on
Yes.
as we were saying,
Yes.
trained personnel. So,
Right. Right.
Everybody.
Yeah. But yeah, in the meantime, send them to me, send them to Karen, and we will do our best to make it happen. Community Connect is tied to first due, so right now, it's actually kind of surprising, I think, to me. I'm a county resident. Right now, there's 1.2-ish million residents in the county, and there's only a little bit over 1,000 people signed up for it. So essentially what it is like a pre-plan. You guys probably already know. It's tied to first due. You can go in there if you're a county resident, put your address in. It's military encrypted, all this stuff. Say, hey, here's the code to my garage, here's where I keep my key, anything you want, right? My gas meter's on side Delta, I have the unfinished basement, whatever you want to put. I can't prove it, but when the program first came out, Koberstein was teaching it, and as an example, he surprised me, he pulled up my address, and all of a sudden it was shown as a grow house. So he thought it was funny, I didn't think it was funny. I keep forgetting that camera's on. I get in trouble. All right. False alarm work group. So Cardiac, falls, and false alarms are the top 3 risks in the CRR plan. So in the same vein as Kitty said, it's 6 calls within 60 days, which, you know, we try to remind field personnel about that everywhere we go. Like in this room, how many people could have pulled that before she said that? I couldn't have if I wasn't up there. I couldn't have remembered that. Beth's on it, but I think the average, and that's why I said in the beginning, I think this is just a reminder to everybody of what we do. The average field person, if you asked them that, like, hey, what's the threshold for CRT? Even if you gave them some choices, I just don't think that many people would know. So it's a good reminder. And like Kitty said, we're not locked down to that. If it's 5 and, you know, we're going to work with it. But the false alarms, though, the reason I say that is because they have a threshold too. 3 in 24 hours or 5 in 7 days. We'll trigger an email, and it's usually Kateki seems to handle a lot of them, but he's pretty responsive, and if anybody has not had that experience, please tell me, but most of the feedback I get is that they're pretty much, they're on it when they get those. Anybody having a different experience? Or school age and older adults, so the life safety educators, you know, I think we're going to move towards trying to follow the data. So whereas in the past decades, right, 3 decades, probably a majority of our efforts have been at schools, whether it be pre-K, kindergarten, puppet shows, lighters and matches, fire safety. I think you're going to see us moving more towards the senior centers because statistically that's, you know, we do have a youth fire setting issue to some extent, but statistically our older adult population is where the problem
Well,
is.
that's a challenge when you have 4 educators
Right.
in a massive school system. We can't, we're not delivering the same presentation to every student in Fairfax County. So
Right.
we need to think about, you know, a canned presentation that teachers can deliver instead of it just being sporadic on what who our educators are teaching and what they're teaching in the county. So like,
Right.
are we using our resources effectively as it stands? And I think the answer is no as far as school-aged
Right.
education goes. So we just have to think about how we want to redeploy them. But
Like a lot of things,
bringing
yeah.
them into battalions is sort of the first step.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of things, it's easier said than done, right? So people are like, just make a video. Like, make a video, then it's consistent, everybody can show it. But, you know, they teach to the SOLs, so unfortunately, like I said, Lindsay's leaving, but she's a superstar. She's really familiar with all the SOL requirements, and you can find them online or whatever, but she took the step in doing it. And so the long-term goal is to teach to the SOLs, right? Make it easier for the teachers. Nobody wants an organization to come in and have an idea that's going to make their job harder, right? You want to try to make their job easier. So our long-term idea is to try to say, hey, here's a video, or here's what we can offer you with one of our educators that will help you check the boxes on your SOLs. And I'll be like, yeah, come on, you know.
If we're not teaching something, right? If we're not getting feedback that there was learning that occurred, at that point we're just entertainment. And
Right.
I know you guys feel like that too when you have to go do a lot of the
Right.
show and tells, but so we're trying to find a balance between still engaging with our communities and our neighborhoods, but
Exactly. Yeah, running in the background always, because I attend these relays with the SAC programs in the summertime, and to be honest with you, depending on the engagement of the staff, like sometimes I'll walk out of it going, I think we did some good today. Like I think we educated some of these kids or whatever, and then other times I'm like, we were just an entertainment show. So that's a challenge, but we're doing our best. So opioids, that's another, it's one that we could probably have a whole, all these things, a presentation in themselves, so just trying to keep it high level. But these are all things that we get into. I mentioned bleeding control. Mobile homes, so there's been 3 or 4 mobile home outreach events this year, all down on Richmond Highway. You can go, they've designed, DASM has designed basically it's a glorified Excel spreadsheet that's overlaid onto a map. So if there's a fire on Shields Avenue, right, in 11's area or whatever, I can type in 6800 Shields and it will show me in any of the mobile home communities down there right now. I can type in an address and it will show dots all over the park where we've installed smoke alarms. And so every time we have one, and we've had a couple this year, my phone will ring and I'll say, Chief Walser, I'm already looking. And it's either Chief Walser or Chief Inouye, like, hey, you looking at the thing? Yeah, I'm looking at it. And you can basically type in the address. And so the last one that happened was in Nines area. And I typed in the address, and we could see on one of our outreaches that we were all over this address, but we didn't hit that particular one. And there's various reasons why, right? I think we get about a 50% open door rate, which is actually really good. And people don't open their doors for various reasons, right? They're not home. The current climate, people aren't coming to the door if they don't know who it is or if they think it's some sort of enforcement agent. They are not coming to the door, a lot of people. So anyway, 50% is pretty good. But the last one, like I said, you can go to the address, zoom in, and be like, okay, we were at this one, we were at that one. And then the Super Bowl is when we're like, okay, we were at that one, and then they evacuated because we were there. That's the win. So.
It could have been a language barrier, because I was on that call. There was 10 people that lived in that trailer, and none of them spoke any English.
Yeah.
Except for the very littlest children.
In our community outreach in the mobile home community specifically, we always take a team. Yeah, neighborhood, like Workers United, Tenants United, but there's always a group of
But it's volunteers. Yeah, as opposed to everybody who was around, and I think everybody in this room was around for, every fire chief has a different spin on the same thing, right? We're going to hand out smoke alarms. And so, as opposed to the way we did it in the prior administration, where every station, it didn't matter if you were at 12 where the homes were McMansions and had elevators and pre-wired smoke alarms, or you were at Nines area with trailer homes. Everybody went out for 3 hours, and that was kind of crazy. So we kind of try to focus our efforts now, so it makes a little more sense. And like I said, we can prove it with data. So we can say, John Morrison in 2 minutes can write a program and say, whatever you want, right? In the last 14 years, how many times have we had a fire and blah, 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 and it's like that, so.
That was successful, because I went with the deputy to Fives area.
Oh, the other night? Oh, the other day? Yeah.
A lot of the neighbors were home, and they were very appreciative. Like, thank you so much, that wasn't scary. I don't know if mine are working, can you check up, just like the typical when we used to do this stuff, but we hit that whole neighborhood, and they were very appreciative.
Thanks for that feedback. And I did look the next morning, so I've got, I always keep minimized several Power BIs, including falls, super users, and smoke alarms is another one. So that morning I took 20 smoke alarms to Station 5, gave them to Captain Morrell. We chit-chatted a little bit. Unfortunately, I couldn't go out with them. I'd like to, but I couldn't make it that day. But the next morning I checked to see, they installed, I think, 3 or 4. But hey, we've already had instances where we type in that address and we had put one in, and that's, like I said, that's the win. So just as a reminder, and everybody, I saw your syllabus. It's a lot of information these days or whatever, but just a reminder that there is a IB on community, we call it PICO, right? Post-Incident Community Outreach. And shamelessly stolen from Loudoun County, which hey, why reinvent the wheel? But Keith Johnson sent it to me. It was good. We tweaked it for Fairfax. It's good, and basically it does what I just said. So as opposed to going county-wide, we're going to go to, that fire was on Dunstable?
Yeah, something like that.
Dunstable. Yeah, and yeah, so basically we hit that street, maybe a couple adjacent streets. I'm not going to get into the weeds on where they go, but I gave them 20 smoke alarms. The IB kind of spells out what to do. So if the fire happened to be caused by fireplace ashes in the wintertime, we're going to probably give them some literature or offer literature on smoke alarms, family escape plan, and, fireplace ashes. And so kind of try to tailor it to the fire, and if there's no cause, we still try to get out within 24 to 48 hours, and a lot of times the cause isn't out yet, but that can't stop us, right? Smoke alarms is universal. We can hand that out every time, and we can just get out in the community and make a presence, right?
Yeah, I think from a human perspective, the follow-up, the next day follow-up is important.
Absolutely.
Just from,
And
like
the
I said,
perception that the community.
And they, like I said, they will come out, right? And they come out the night of the fire, right? It's not like everybody's got to walk their dog, right? When there's a fire, oh, what's going on? I just happened to be walking my dog, right?
I think
But
they appreciate the presence next to their,
yeah,
within the 24 to 48 hours.
yeah,
And like I said, we didn't hand out many, at least we were there for just a little while, but we definitely checked a lot of people's,
yeah.
seeing working conditions.
Everyone has been very nice about it, like, so So it's been good. I think this is one of the last slides, but just a reminder, there's another document. It's, I apologize. I put out the IB on post-incident community outreach. I also put out an SOP. We never had an SOP on smoke alarms, so there's an SOP on smoke alarms. If you haven't seen it, it's like 6 pages long. But it is comprehensive, and it covers a lot of the questions that have come up as far as installation, how to document it on your iPads, and Survey 123 and all that stuff. And it really is important. So now that document is out there. So again, I saw the syllabus, but put it on your list to check out.
Go back one. Let's see what it is. Oh, fall. You're going to talk about fall prevention.
Yeah, and actually, you've got the draft that's coming soon, so I'll let you talk
So I
about
know
fall.
we've been talking about falls for years, right? And what is it going to look like? And there was a time where we were going to have 2 teams going out to do in-home safety assessments. But again, if you look at 11% of our calls being lift assist or falls, like what are 2 teams of people going to be able to do? How effective is that going to be? So, as Kitty mentioned, we have a lot of resources within the county that people don't know about. And so, all of our services for older adults, meals, safety assessments, meds, companionship, transport, all lies within Department of Family Services, adults and aging section. So we've had meetings with them about how we can refer our specifically lift assist population, so people that have fallen or have issues with needing to be moved around their home but are not injured. How can we reach them and prevent the fall with injury? So for a specific lift assist population, whether that be movement or fall without injury, we're going to refer patients to the DFS's intake line. And there will be an ID forthcoming with that once we get all the details sorted out. But it will also be a pamphlet on pamphlets that you guys can share with family members. Again, it just gives all the information specifically to their intake line and the services that they provide. But we want to make it easy. V-pamphlets needs to be cleaned up too. I don't know if anybody uses it on a regular basis. No. Okay. So we want to make it easier for you guys to give like information that that a patient or family would need, but not be overwhelmed by what's in the V-pamphlets app. So I think there's a lot in there, and we need to just trim it down to the larger agencies that they can refer to. Anyway, so it's coming.
All these things that we're talking about in falls, certainly smoke alarms, all these things qualify, and I already mentioned it, but we're trying to deputize the field troops, right? That's our best resource. We can't do it all with 4 life safety educators, so we're trying to normalize, and I think it already happens, but you guys are all leaders in the organization. You can help to, continue to normalize it. Is, if you're at a call, like falls is a good example, right? Hey, mitigate the call that you're on, obviously, but while you're there, take a look around, right? Okay, I can predict that, this person's going to trip on this, fix it, right? It's kind of common sense, but it doesn't always happen, right? I think it does a lot. Smoke alarms is the same thing, right? Clear the call that you're on, take a look around. I remember many times in my career where the officer was like, hey, Brad, go out to the engine, get a battery, right? The smoke alarm by the kitchen is hanging because it goes off every time they cook, just replace it. Take that extra step, because over the course of time, every time you do that, it's like, right, another metaphor, it's pebble in the pond, right? Eventually it's gonna make a difference. So, and we've already proven it, right? It's happened. And we've proven the times when it hasn't happened, right? We were talking about, recently we were talking about a flash fire that occurred because someone was smoking with a non-rebreather, right? And out of curiosity, and again, you shouldn't have to say anything, right? But it's happened many times, and it's not just in Fairfax County, it's everywhere, and it's been happening for decades, right? So out of curiosity, we went back and looked, because it was a flash fire, but this person got burned, and went back and looked, and we had been at that address several times before. Now, maybe education occurred, maybe it didn't, maybe it would have happened anyway, but maybe we could have said something that would have prevented it. So that's kind of the mode we're trying to get into. So
the idea is fix what you can, refer what you can, but making that as part of your kind of normal rollout on these calls, right? You got to figure with the falls being 10% of our calls, even the 1% change in that is a measurable number.
yeah. And, you know, I'm preaching to the choir, but there's, you know, a lot of these men and women coming in now, they are young and impressionable. They do not know any better, and they are gonna, these first few years, and let's be real, like the mentors out there are anywhere from here to there. And the good ones, like I said, I remember Eric Cunningham was one of my guys or whatever. He's like, Brad, go out to the engine. And like, he was always like in that mode of like, we're gonna try to do some good here, beyond what we did for the call itself. So, soapbox, but Kitty talked about CRT smoke alarms. We have them. We'll continue to have them. The campaign, when the next fire chief comes, will probably be called something different, but it's going to be the same thing, right? We're going to hand out smoke alarms. And like I said, there's an SOP on it. The terminology is smoke alarms. It's not smoke detectors, and that sounds a little nitpicky or whatever, but you can Google it, or one of the prevention guys can tell you, but the smoke detector is tied to a system, so it detects the smoke and then alerts you, versus a local smoke alarm is the ones that we're putting in houses. So, the average citizen expects us to use the right terminology. So it is a little nitpicky, I get it, and 99% of the people, they don't care and it doesn't matter, but we should try to use the right terminology. So, any questions? Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
If I could plug one more thing too, our responsiveness to celebrating our cardiac arrest resuscitation reunions. I mean, I think we have an incredibly good program for that. And the EMS supervisors and now the EMS specialists as well often have a key kind of critical role in that, in identifying key players. And often, especially if you have a ROSC and you're not doing transport. John Streeter, for example, was really, really good at this. She would have the names of the bystanders. She would have all the information to Karen right away so that we could recognize these people's effort, right? I mean, we do this for a living. Most of these people will have never done this before and have stepped into this role as lay people. It is wonderful to celebrate. It's wonderful also from a public health messaging standpoint. It gives us opportunities to again reinforce why CPR matters, why AED matters. Like, it's one of these things that's like a win-win-win-win.
Thank you for bringing that up. Sometimes we have information on the bystanders. Obviously, if you're doing patient care, right, that's the priority. But if there's somebody else that can get tasked with grabbing the bystander name and contact information so we know who did what, that way, not only do we like to recognize reunions, we have letters of recognition if people did respond accordingly, but maybe the patient outcome wasn't great. But from a personal, like, hey, how are you doing? We like to follow up with them too. So they were just part of this traumatic event. You guys came in, everybody, there was a lot of action and commotion, and then you leave, and we just leave that lay person, and they're going home to their loved ones that night. Like, is that fine? We'll when we have contact information, we'll call and follow up, and just to hey, you doing okay?
It's very
Questions?
rewarding. It is. Like, the most recent one I think that I remember, that was, we got the most chains of link of survival in place together in one spot, was at Nova.
Yeah.
And so we had the call take, we had a representative from the DPSC, we had the patient and his family. It was a professor at Nova. We had the campus police, we had the director of Nova, we had the first responders. I think the only thing we were missing was the hospital personnel. Yeah. Although one of the docs was there, maybe it was.
That's too. I can't go down that path.
It was everybody though, and it was like tears, and like I would argue that it's actually, like I said, I can't remember ever until the end doing those resuscitation reunions in my career. So you just kind of always wondered, like, I wonder what happened to that person. Like, so I think it's therapeutic for the first responders and the families, and it's huge. You're giving them years of time with their families. So
That and the keeping your eyes out specifically for public access defibrillators too. And I think that's again, a lot of these businesses, you got to think about it. That's like a line item, right? So like Giant is not required to have a defibrillator. A gym is by regulation, but Giant, that's a decision ultimately that their corporate is making to invest in that. And so we'll always send a letter at minimum to these corporations to be like, listen, you invested in having AED and it was used, and thank you. So keep an eye out for AED use. Let Karen and the team know so that we can reward that.
We just went over to Costco last week. Some people say we went over for the hot dog special, but we actually went over to recognize someone for AED use that was a resuscitation. And then we asked for the manager, because it's hard to get through to anybody on the phone. Asked for the manager, she came out, chatting with her, whatever, like, hey, thank you, is the person that actually made the, applied the AED here? And she was like, being very modest, she was like, actually it was me. So that was cool. But yes, we try to go out and recognize those people, and it is very...
she wanted a hug.
Yeah,
She wanted a hug.
it was cool. It was really cool, so.
I don't know if you're in the forum or in this section, but I just want to share like some focused storytelling about a success story where your branch, Karen, and Seaman went out in follow-up to basically it was an aesthetician's office that had 2 cardiac arrests in 2 weeks, relating to some of the care and some of the designs of their facility. They very skillfully navigated that under the umbrella of a CRT, cardiac arrest follow-up. Hey, this is an impactful event. We're coming to just check on your facility. Hey, what do you do here? You do conscious sedation? I see. Do you have CPR training? No. Do you have an AED? No.
Monitor.
Do you
a
monitor
medic
patients when they're sedated? No. The patients were perhaps over-sedated? Do you have like Narcan? Deftly managed but I didn't overdose them. It wasn't me, with the response of, look, you're not responsible for what they take before they come in here. People take things other than what you prescribe them, and we have CRT revive kits in the vehicle. Let me leave you some in case somebody comes in on substances and has respiratory depression during a procedure. Making tomorrow better than yesterday, I view that as a huge success, and the kind of collaborative relationship of, all right, what do we want as the end point? I would like for people who shouldn't be in cardiac arrest to go into cardiac arrest. If they do, I would like them to be prepared to manage it successfully. Right? How do we get from here to there? Whoever sends the message. It was down to the level of like the uniform party, and Karen, I think you went in scrubs, aligning hey, I'm a friendly person in scrubs. I'm of your true.
One of you. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I identify.
yeah.
I just didn't know what to
I
word.
say- It was masterfully.
Well, it
managed.
felt good leaving them with Narcan at minimum,
Yes.
knowing that office is
Yes,
still
and
open.
they
Yeah.
and train their staff in CPR. So this is an example. I can share that as a success story. And you are part of that team. That was a specialist supervisor in that role, stepping in. And from a public health perspective, I was like, I don't want to wind up on data. Don't let it be a third case of how we didn't take action. And I lost sleep over it. How do we do this well so we don't piss them off and have them kick us out? Even from a fire perspective, that building, the number and the entrance was separate from where it was entered. So if there was a fire in that building, it was like labeled as this is the address, and it wasn't the address. So anyway, that's just an illustrative example of where your position can come together with our peers in the organization to impact for the positive effect.